In a world that is just drowning in data and AI, you'd think it would be easy to create something truly original. But it feels harder than ever, right? We've got all this incredible power, but how do we actually use it to build products that really matter? Well, the answer, it turns out, isn't just about looking forward. It's about looking back at the basics.
See, the secret sauce isn't buried in some complex algorithm. It's in something way more fundamental, something human. At the absolute core of every single great product is this timeless relationship, the one between the designer who creates it and the user who, well, uses it.
So, if we really want to get a handle on the future of product development, we've got to start right here, with this human foundation. This isn't about technology replacing people. It's about understanding how people and tech can create amazing things together.
So, think of it like this. It's a constant dance between these two roles. On one side, you have the designer. They're doing the research, using their gut, and working with teams to try and imagine what we need. But on the other side, that's us. We're the users, and we have all the power, really. Our choices, what we buy, what we download, what we ignore, that's the ultimate vote. We decide what succeeds and what fails. It's a feedback loop.
Okay, so if this human collaboration is so important, how do we actually organize it so it works, especially when things get really complicated? Well, the answer is in something called patterns. Basically, reusable blueprints for success based on collective human experience.
This idea isn't new. A brilliant architect named Christopher Alexander said it perfectly. He argued that the people who are actually going to live in a building should be the ones shaping it. It just makes sense, right? This idea that the user should be at the center of all decisions, that's the real starting point for anything great.
So what exactly is a pattern? It's just a fancy way of saying, here's a solution that we know works for a problem that keeps popping up. If you've ever used a framework like Scrum, you've used patterns. Things like the daily stand-up or the sprint, those are patterns. They're not just random rules. They encode years of painful, hard-won experience into a simple, repeatable process.
And this is so important. Patterns are not rigid, robotic instructions. They're all about people. They're frameworks designed to spark our instincts, to make sure we're having the right conversations, and to help us work together better. They're there to empower people, not to replace their judgment.
All right, so we've got these incredible human patterns for working together. But now we're throwing a brand new, super powerful tool into the mix, AI. And while AI has all this incredible promise, it also comes with this hidden catch, a little trap that a lot of people are falling into right now.
Which brings us to the big central question, doesn't it? We're all using these new AI tools hoping they'll give us that spark, that next breakthrough idea. But can they really help us create something that's genuinely original? And the research is pretty clear. The answer is kinda no. By their very design, these AI models are built to predict the most likely next thing based on all the internet data they were trained on. It's what we could call the normalization trap. It's programmed to be average, to find the middle of the road. It literally can't be unique unless you feed it truly unique contextual information to begin with.
So this is the big aha moment. The solution isn't to choose between our human patterns on one side and AI on the other. No way. The real magic happens when you bring them together, when you synthesize them. You see, the problem was never that AI needed more data. It's already got more than enough of that. What it was missing was connected data. You needed rich, structured context. It needs to understand the relationships between ideas, the causes, the effects, the whys. And that is exactly what our human patterns and experience can provide.
And this is where a cool new approach called graph RAG comes into play. See, the old way, classic RAG, was basically a fancy search engine. It could find documents with similar words, but it had no clue how the ideas inside were actually connected. Graph RAG is totally different. It builds a map of relationships, a knowledge graph, so it can literally follow the connections from one idea to the next. And the way it works is actually pretty simple. First, you build the graph, pulling out all the key concepts, people, ideas, events, and mapping the relationships between them. Then, when you ask a question, the AI literally walks across that graph, gathering up a whole web of deep context. And finally, it feeds all that rich, connected info to the LLM. The result? An answer that's insightful, deeply reasoned, and definitely not average.
Let me give you a quick example. Let's say you ask, how is Company A related to a carbon-neutral thing in Berlin? A classic system might give you two separate articles, one about each, but GraphRag can actually follow the breadcrumbs. It sees Company A invested in this startup, which then partnered with that climate alliance in Berlin. Boom. It connects the dots for you. That's the kind of multi-step reasoning we've been missing. Okay, so we have our human patterns for effective collaboration, and we have an AI that's supercharged with real context. So what happens when you put these two things together? Well, you essentially get a whole new operating system for building intelligent products and organizations.
But before we dive into that system, let's just quickly remember what we're even trying to do here. The word product actually comes from the Latin producere, which means to lead forth. Our entire job is to lead forth a solution to somebody's unmet need. That's it. That's the whole game.
So the how we do this comes from the human side. Frameworks like Scrum at Scale give us the organizational patterns. It creates this network of small, agile teams and provides just enough structure, like a scrum of scrums and executive teams, to help them coordinate and, most importantly, get rid of roadblocks. The goal is what they call a minimum viable bureaucracy, just enough process to keep everyone laser-focused on delivering value.
Now here's where it gets really exciting. The what we should build is now supercharged by our smart AI. That efficient human structure is now powered by a knowledge graph that deeply understands your customers. So now a product team can just ask, hey, what are the top anxieties stopping people from using our new feature? And they can get a data-informed answer in minutes, not weeks. Marketing, sales, they can all ask these deep contextual questions and get real answers.
And that right there is the whole point. This synthesis of people and AI empowers the local teams, the folks who are closest to the customer and the code, to make better, faster, data-informed decisions. It closes the loop between what the designer intends and what the user actually needs. And it does it at scale.
So this all leaves us with one final big question to chew on. For years, we've all been focused on mastering frameworks and processes, but in a future where AI can apply those frameworks for us, is the most valuable skill really knowing the process? Or is it knowing how to master the intelligent application of connected data? Something to think about.